Okay, problems. Why are we seeing resistance? Well, a lot of it's improper usage. I'll have some people come in the clinic and say, well, I gave it Ivomec by mouth, and then I gave it Safeguard, and then I injected it with this, and then I did this. So they are mixing dewormers, which is not appropriate. They'll give it the inappropriate dosage. You may just not know the correct dosage for that particular dewormer, and if you're underdosing it, thus not getting rid of the worms, you're just exposing them to the dewormer where they can fight it. Okay? You're doing it at the wrong time and the wrong route of administration, just like with the Poron. And deworming, when it may not have been warranted to start with. That one particular goat may have only had one parasite. Well, maybe at that time you shouldn't have dewormed them. I'll kind of get into that. Our causes for our infestation, well, we've got some good old Tennessee weather. And that high temperature and high humidity, it just doesn't kill the larvae. They just love laying on the ground. Some of it, and this is what I really push for, the genetic makeup of goats. If you've got some nannies that just every year just get down and out and they're fighting parasites, you're constantly deworming them, the veterinarian's constantly coming over there, you're constantly doing fecals, do you really want to propagate those genetics? Her resistance to parasites are not that good. You want those goats in here, and I've got some of my sheep, and I'll tell you guys about that in a minute, but some of those goats will have the biggest burden of parasites you've ever seen in your life, but they're just as fat and sassy, and they're not anemic, and they've got great poop, and you'd have never known it. Those are the ones you want to propagate. Okay? And a lot of it, this is a big problem we see in our neck of the woods, that many goat producers, they overstock their pasture. He's got 100 goats on 5 acres. Well, good night. They're just having a worm party is what they're having. So your density, as many as 40 goats per acre, that's just too much. It's too much. So what do we do? Management is the key. It's prevention more than cure. We're finding that parasite load does not correlate to disease. I've got again, I'm talking about sheep and we're talking about goats, sorry about that. I've got 2 sheep. I've got one ewe that is the fattest ewe in my entire flock. She never had diarrhea, never had a problem. Her eye color's always been great, and every time I do a fecal float on her, she is loaded with parasites. And then I've got another ewe who is always kind of on the thin side, doesn't do that great. Her eye color's okay, and every once in a while we have diarrhea, and she didn't have hardly any more than 2 eggs per field when I look at her. She just didn't tolerate parasites very well. Which one did I sell? The thin one that I treat all the time, and I propagate that fat, sassy one that can get along with parasites. This is kind of my made-up mock version of how to take care of parasites and when's it appropriate to deworm. When do we need to deworm? I look at body condition scores, and you can do on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being your fattest, or 1 to 5, okay? If you've got a goat that's, a 4 out of 5, that's wonderful, okay? That's a good body condition. Now you look at consistency of feces. Is it diarrhea? Is it cow patty? Are they true fecal balls? That's something you look for. And then we talk about fomantia. Have you guys heard of fomantia? Does anybody practice fomantia in their herds? Good. That's when you look at the conjunctiva, it's the tissue, not the whites of their eye, but when you peel back their eyelid, you look around, that tissue should be nice bubblegum pink. They've actually got charts for you to look at. So I take these 3 things into consideration: their body condition score, the consistency of their feces, and their fomantia when you're on the farm to determine their parasite burden, okay? And I always back it up with a fecal exam on that particular one. So I come in and I look at this particular goat and I say, oh my gosh, there's a 2 out of 5. But our poop looks okay, and we're pretty pink. I'm still going to do a fecal to back up the fact that we may have parasites, okay? And then we can go from there what to deworm that animal with. If I come in and I've got a 5 out of 5, we have fecal balls, and we're just as pink as all get out, you may not have to particularly deworm that animal, but if you want to do a fecal exam, you can to kind of back that up. It's all how they tolerate. For example, I may be able to tolerate a cold better than you can. Okay, it's all in how their immune system works.
And what if they're tolerating, but they have a pretty high egg count?
It depends on your management in terms of your pasture, because they're contaminating your pastures too. Okay, we'll get into management of pastures. Your goats should be dewormed on a regular basis. I'm not against that. But I'm against you coming in there once every 3 weeks and deworming your goats. I think we're just propagating resistance. So always do a fecal to back it up, but I use these 3 things to kind of back up when I go in and I do a physical. To kind of know, when you're looking at a herd of 40 or 50 that are out there, you can pick them out. I bet we have a parasite problem. I bet we do too. So that kind of backs that up. So no, you should deworm them, but I'm telling you, you should keep those. They're the ones that have the good genes against parasites. This is, they're doing Famacha here. They actually have a scorecard here that lets you know about how anemic they truly are. Here's another scorecard here. This right here, that's fatal. That is not good. And see, that one right there is not too pink. So the big thing is, don't overload your pastures. That's a big problem, especially, like I said, in our area. You kind of determine your animal density, and you may ask, well, how many can I keep per acre? Well, it depends on what kind of goat, what your purpose is for your goats. If you've got, high-producing La Mancha that you don't milk, but you keep them in a lot and they keep their kids on, and they're going to be constantly grazing, constantly feeding. It's going to be completely different from you having 3 show wethers in terms of your density of how many to put per pasture. So it just depends on the type of animal and its purpose. But I really encourage rotational grazing to keep clean pastures, or keep them as clean as possible. So if you go through and it's the time for you to deworm, or time to go through and Famacha all of your goats, you want to, ones that need to be dewormed, you deworm, or if you deworm them all, you leave them on that one pasture, let them pass out their parasites for about 2 or 3 days, then you put them rotate them on a clean pasture. And you take this pasture that they were just on and groom it down, you clip it down where the sun can get to it and drag it. It'll help kind of disperse and let the UV get to it to try to kill some of those larvae. So proper pasture is really important.
How long would it take for that one to be? How long should you leave them on that?
Several months, I try to. That's the best thing to do, but no matter how long you leave them on there, there's still going to be eggs on there, and eggs can live forever, okay? But this is the best prevention that you can do, the best way to manage. Remember to always consult with your vet, and prevention is the best medicine. So.
Dr. Hatcher, have
Yes.
you heard anything about any benefits from using Salicylic fever, tannin effect?
No, I haven't. But I think it's coming more into play that people are realizing that you just can't depend on dewormers anymore, that we've got to do something else. And I think pasture management is key.
I think evidently there is some correlation that the tannins in the Salicylic does have an anthelminic property to it.
That's interesting.
Looking at that a little more.
Okay.
You heard about like how high up a plant that these worm larvae will travel as a rule?
No, I don't know that
I
either.
heard 8 inches. Try not to graze below 8 inches because they found that they just don't travel much above
Right.
mark.
Right. Well, that's a good point. And being that goats are browsers, my friend Hari over there, she turns them out in woods. That makes them not eat off the ground. They're going to eat all of the vines and the trees. That's a good management key too. So. Okay, so parasites are extremely frustrating. We see it all the time, and I try to tell, I've got some clients that come once a week with one that's dying, or they'll take to the state lab, we died of parasites. But they don't, the key is, we can't rely on our dewormers anymore. We're having to fall back on our management, so that's really, really, really important. So, yes?
In doing your fecal samples and stuff like that, and being able to identify the eggs and stuff like that, is there like a chart or a book that you can recommend that where you see pictures of that? Identifying?
What's the name of our book that we had? Georgie?
Yeah.
Georgie's a good book, is a pretty good book. And it's Georgi, Georgie's Parasitology. And I tell you, if you Google some of the parasites I had listed, you could probably have some good pictures. Homunculus is the big one. Okay. It's pictures of my male is a Belgian Malinois, the one that was my technician in my vet truck. And these are some of his puppies. Any questions? Did anything make sense? Did I talk over everybody's head? Okay.